Do you think that the primary system allows for that to happen? Given what we talked about, wanting to make sure that your child does well within a system that stack ranks itself, is there opportunity for that? That's a hard one. Yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to answer.
It also depends on the teacher, how accepting the classroom teacher is of mistakes.
But that is because of a system. How accepting is the system for us to be regular individuals? How accepting is the system? If the system doesn't accept it, the teachers are not going to be accepting because their KPIs are based on this. And therefore, the parents are not going to be accepting because they can see they're going to do everything they have to do to make sure their child isn't left behind. It's not even succeeding and being the best. It's not wanting their child to be left behind. Because then there is all the other stuff that we're not talking about. The bullying.
Yes.
The being left out. The being depressed. All of that is also stuff that the parent then needs to take on. So how then can we... There's a need for change, right?
Okay, I think that we can immediately reduce the stress level in this whole system by reducing the class size to about 30, right? I mean, the number we can talk about later, but just reducing the class size will give the teachers a bit more space to be thinking about the way they are speaking to the kids, their messaging, their body language, and that I believe that will help straight away, right? And if the school leaders can be watchful about the messaging to the teachers, that will help even more, right? So I think at every level we need to practice giving each other grace, right? And allow, like what you say, allow for mistakes. Okay, so one thing I noticed about kids, even as I tutor them, many of the kids, when they make a mistake, and I say that, you might want to consider that this might not be right? And then they're so quick, they take the correction tape and just scrub it away. And I said, hey, hang on, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Why are you erasing away your opportunity to learn? Right? So I'll keep telling the kids, it's better to leave what's wrong on the paper so that you can learn from the mistakes that you make. And that is part of learning.
Yeah.
So we need to celebrate the making of mistakes, actually.
No, so why is there this emphasis on, it has to be a model answer? Right? Because the teachers also need to be able to accept criticism from the student and have an open, mature discussion about it, right? If the timetable is packed full of academic subjects, maybe the curriculum needs to reduce so that more explicit teaching of life skills and values can be incorporated into the timetable.
Perhaps just like to add that to the discussion. There is a lot of talk about leveraging on technology to ease the teachers' workload, like for example automating certain administrative tasks, using the learning platforms to offload the marking, so to speak.
AI marking.
Yeah. Sure. I think, we are giggling right now because
It's getting tougher.
it's because I think there's a discomfort whereby the assumption behind that kind of that way of thinking is this workload is fine. We must maintain the workload, but make it more efficient. And when we say we maintain the workload, be more efficient, we free up teachers' time, Then the question is, what are we using the time for? If it's for professional development, that's great. You own your craft, make it better. If it's to work with students, get to know them better, speak with them more often, find out with them, great, that's better. Lennie May talked about reducing class size. I think that is every teacher's dream. Again, not because teachers are lazy. We have survived decades of marking 40. We will survive decades of marking 40. That's not a problem. But it is a kind of tone you take the classroom, right? When you are in a classroom teaching a class of 40, you have an hour. You have an hour, say, doing math, science, whatever. You are thinking of the most efficient way to deliver, to teach, right? What's the most efficient? The universities have not changed. It's a lecture.
Yeah.
Right? A lecture hall is 300 students, lecture. And where is the learning taking place? The tutorial. Right? But in the classroom, it is a lecture and the tutorial in the same classroom. If teachers are not careful, they will turn to the lecture all the time. Thoughtful, deliberate, considerate design of lessons need time. Teachers need to just take a step back and say, I've got an hour. I want to incorporate 21cc. I want to make sure they are speaking to each other. I want them to work through these agreements. I need time to design this task. Knowing my class, I can't take Sarah's lesson plan. Her class is different from mine. And that is the unspoken bit. AI can't do that. At least not yet, I hope.
So there are benefits to AI, right? It's like Google on steroids. It does help you shortcut, but it cannot do the thinking for you because the output is very much determined by the prompts that you give it, right? So there is a way to leverage AI. But when you talked about, coming up with the administrative platforms and all, I remember when I was in the system, every time they change a platform, it's like there isn't a perfect system, and then it keeps changing every year because there's weaknesses in every system. There isn't a robust enough system. I don't know whether that's changed since, right? Where using technology to help with the learning was beneficial. When I was in the system, no.
Yeah, but things have improved.
Yeah, of course, right? But at the same time, you also have to recognize that different children learn differently. Doing the lecture style, it's terrible for neurodivergent children, right? Having alternative ways of thinking, having to accommodate learning challenges, whether it's dyslexia, whether it's ADHD, whether it's autism. I hope we're getting better, but what I learned is there was no place for that in the classroom. And even now, right, the teachers do not have enough of an understanding of neurodivergence to accommodate, and with a class of 40, impossible, let's face it. And so much gets ignored or cast aside because there are children who are masking, and as long as they're fulfilling what we consider doing well academically, then they're not struggling. But you don't know what's happening in here. You don't know the struggles that they have because they've been forced to mask in a model system, in a traditional classroom.
Some of that is changing, that's for sure. There are teachers who are trained. There are teachers, and there are some smaller places. It's not perfect, and it will take some time before it gets there. And a lot of them are still suffering. Teachers are suffering,
Yes,
as well as the student, as well as the clerks. And that is something I think that it needs more attention and needs more time and needs more resource, for sure. But yeah, okay. So teaching is a noble profession, I was told. My grandmother wanted me to become a teacher. I would have died. But do you think the perception of being a teacher has changed? Do young people want to become teachers? Would you ask a young person to be a teacher? Would you advise them to be a teacher?
I'd like to share a story.
Yeah.
When I first wanted to join the teaching service, I approached, I informed my favorite teacher from junior college. His first response was, "Why?"
Incredulously or nicely?
In the "Do you know what you're in for?" tone. But I mean, jokes aside, right? I think his concern stems from that he is in the system. He recognizes the kind of sacrifices and the kind of work they're in for. And I think he's of the opinion that not everyone's cut out for that stick. But thankfully, I didn't listen to him. I was there for 17 years. I'm happy with that. I think teaching as a vocation. I think of teaching as vocation, right? People join teaching for different reasons. Anecdotally, I've been told when the country goes through a recession, the teaching service becomes really popular, right? We are one of the rare few systems that paid teachers while being trained. And you have your bond, but you have guaranteed a job for 3 years. So in the times of recession, that's great news. That's great news, right? And because of that, you will expect teachers to come and go. That's fine. I do it in any occupation. For teachers to stay, I think it's more than just the remuneration. There must be something in the job that says I'm willing to suffer because there's something that's meaningful for perhaps because I have a great teacher. Perhaps I find meaning with my children. Perhaps I find satisfaction in seeing them grow. Correct. That's the noble bit of it. In terms of the perception of teachers, I think in Singapore, it is still well regarded. But going back to Sarah's point, right, when our parents get increasingly educated, they come to believe that they are educators themselves. The analogy I'll put is this way. I see doctors quite often. I do not presume that I know medicine. I wouldn't dare. But teaching is one of those few jobs that parents have opinions and they're not afraid to tell you. It is how we hold ourselves. I think as a professional, we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to stakeholders to continually be updated. Go and learn, go and do a professional development, be your very best. I wish we can have such conversation with parents more often to understand that we are not here to punish your children. We are not here to be oppositional to you. We are in a partnership. But partnerships require work on all sides. Partnerships require work from the parents. And I'm not saying that parents should take on the teaching work. That's not what I'm saying. But if parents could help with ensuring the children come in with the right attitude towards learning, having your basic life skills right in your notebook, right? Make sure you pack your bags. Make sure if you forget something, just own up. Don't try to hide. Things like that. Yeah, it goes a long way. And these are things that I think are quite reasonable. But it takes our ministers to come forward and say, please don't send your water bottle to the school gate and to send it. Why do we need to do that? Well, did something go wrong somewhere?
No, you talk about partnership and parents being in partnership with the teachers, and everybody talks about it, right? The minister talks about it, teachers talk about it. You go to a school talk at the start of the year, they talk about it. But parents only see the teachers once a year. Okay? Parents only, and any partnership requires constant communication. Okay? Constant communication. I'm not saying that parents and teachers have a lot of time, but if that constant communication is necessary, and in a lot of times, the communication that we get from teachers is a very terse note on parent gateway or whatever, or through our messages through the children. So then how can we improve that partnership communication? Because awareness is necessary on all fronts.
That's right.
Right? And I almost feel that it might be beneficial if we're not just meeting them once, but we're meeting them, I don't know, I don't know the right formula for this because we're all very, very busy all the time. But I don't know, is there a need for a regular family discussion? And when I say a family, I mean the education family, the teacher, the child, and the parent, not just once a year. Because also the fact is the teacher changes every couple of years, right? There are different teachers for different subjects. So I'm not expecting this to be I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there as a solution that if we need to be partners need to communicate.
That's right.
So I remember when I was a teacher, I would make it a point to send a very short email to a parent every month. Say, hey, your child is doing okay. Because we only call a parent when the child has done something wrong,
Yes.
right? So I know that the parents appreciated that I would give a monthly update, right? Then when there was a problem, they were more receptive.
That's right.
And I've had occasions where I've had to give really honest feedback.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, you're going to have those who, regardless of the feedback, they're going to take offense, right? But at the same time, majority will receive the feedback, even though it's negative.
I think that this is one area which is not explicitly taught in NIE, which I think they should. They should have spent some time on it, like communication skills between teachers and parents. Yeah, I think it's important.
But going back to Lennie's point, just thinking, right? Why are teachers not communicating more often? You've got 40 kids.
I know.
Imagine if I have a smaller class size, I can make better observations. And even if I do write a note to a parent, I spend more time writing that, giving more details. The parents will feel more reassured. Like the terse note is probably a standardized template thing.
Yeah. And also they're harassed, right?
Yeah.
They're feeling panicked. There is a panic. Yeah.
So it depends on schools. One of the schools that I served with actually had a really good practice. Before the start of the year, they'll give time to teachers and they were saying, look, this is you have 1.5 days. This is your class list. Please call every family. Just introduce yourself and tell them that you will be the child's teacher. And to find out, is there anything that the parent would like to tell you before the start of the school year. I thought that was enough. We start off the school year on a positive note. And this is a signal that we are partners. We are here to work together. But this is not something that's standardized across schools. So it could be something that perhaps not standardized, but encouraged. I hear you, right? The partnership requires communication.
But like you say in NIE, right? Teach. This is like basic communication skills. Right? And I probably did it. I probably did it because of my background from comms, right? It's always good. It's PR. You
Preempt it.
correct. Also, we spent so much time trying to sugarcoat the remarks in the
Report card.
report book, right? And then what happens is parents are not getting the true picture. And we need to find a way to deliver the message accurately without pretending that everything's fine and dandy.
Okay, so to kind of roll it all up. Given the recent calls for change in parliamentary speeches, we know that change is happening. But is it at the pace that we need it? And what's a mindset shift that you'd like to see happen?
There's a tension because on one hand, you want to reduce the stress on everybody. But on the other hand, stress is actually healthy to produce good results. So this is always a tension. And then sometimes when you swing too far in one direction, you lose. Because, I mean, if you really want Singapore to be successful as a small country in this big world, we have to punch above our weight. And to punch above our weight, we need really excellent students. But of course, we do not want the students that fall through the cracks to have these students also need a place in the society.
That's right.
So we're always having this tension between, should we be developing the high achievers or should we be, making sure everyone has has a rice bowl. So it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had an answer, I would join politics. I can earn my $1 million minister salary. I'm not at that level yet.
I'm thinking of the mission statement of MOE, right? We mold the future of Singapore. So perhaps the question we ask ourselves, are we satisfied with the kind of future that we are molding right now? And I think this is a question that is not just for MOHD, it's society, right? Because we can parade like the exceptional success stories despite personal difficulties, despite familial difficulties. But if we are still talking about material success as the only gauge of success, we're just be screaming in the void. And this notion of and this is at the policy level, right? Any shift in a policy is like trying to shift the Titanic. You need to shift it 1 degree over a long course of time in order to make the turn. I hear Sarah, right? We have a good system. In fact, by the metrics, we have a great system. Is it good enough for the future we want? Is it good enough for the children we serve? That's something
I think what we're trying to do is that we're trying to move to a future where it's like mass customization. It's like every child matters, right? But at the same time, the whole system works well.
Yeah.
So somehow this message needs to get through. Every child is important, right? You can set your own goals, you can set your own measures of success, and chase after it is fine. Not everybody has to get into the so-called branded schools.
Right.
It's fine.
That's right.
In fact, sometimes your perception of branded schools, it might not be what you actually think it is. Because we have good teachers in all sorts of schools. In fact, I saw recently in one of my parents' groups, I saw some other parents say, oh, actually, MOE doesn't send the best teachers necessary to only the top schools. And those in the heartland schools have to work, they actually care more for the kids. Whereas those in the branded schools, because the kids are so good anyway, so they don't really put in that much effort to really teach. They just let the kids can learn by themselves. So I was like, interesting. Yeah. Actually, parents are getting more aware of what's happening.
So that mindset shift is happening. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me and talking candidly about your experiences within teaching here in Singapore. Thank you very much. If you find these conversations valuable, please like the video, subscribe, and follow us so you may never miss an episode. So grab a copy and let's talk about what matters.